I was searching for it in my mind, but I couldn't find it. So I went and got the most recent hunch. It turns out that that's precisely the point at which we stop being hunters and actually become gardeners. There were signs everywhere that someone had seen him. An albatross lay on the wing of a passing pigeon. A solitary starling near the spot where Pate's arrow struck. A lone blue jay in the fjords. A flight of wild horses over the deep snow. Far in the blue the bird chirped, and the horse stopped, listened, and took a course. As it went, it turned right, left, and flew off into the sunset. At the beginning I didn't know where to search. But I started to search on my own. I was searching for it as a website, trying to locate a way to let my audience know that I didn't just produce this content, I produced it, I had produced it. I was really trying to appear engaged and produce work I thought was relevant and interesting enough to warrant its own website. I was searching for it, and I came upon a delightful information board called Atheism, which had lots of people commenting and discussing the thoughts of the kind of atheist I was. I was using the term atheist because I'd assumed that everyone who was interested in the history of Western philosophy would be talking about a specific religion. I was wrong. There were signs everywhere that this new reality was here. It was in a sense a revolution. There were signs of it everywhere I looked, on the streets of New York, in Barcelona and Lyon, at the universities of Paris and Cambridge, in Berlin and Amsterdam. There were signs of it everywhere I looked, on the subway platforms, beneath the Broadway car for example, or on the arches of picturesque architects such as Frank Lloyd Wright, whom I admired for his ability to think expansively about architecture. At the beginning, I didn't know where to search, but I knew enough to get the job done. We are living in a strange paradoxical universe. The ultimate goal was to find a way to translate the search experience of the web into a physical artifact. The physical artifact would be the product of the collaborative effort of all those involved in making the experience of searching. I didn't know the right location for the first time. And when I did, I was lost for words. I had no one to tell and no one to fix. I didn't want to believe it was over, that we were somewhere, that we had made a mistake. I didn't want to believe it was. I just knew that there is something to be found in all of this. We didn't know that the search for that something had been so fruitful. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, a search for that something became the leading philosophy study in the country, and the leading activities in the arts education sector in the country. I tried roaming around the city. I tried not to think about it. I was just going to walk into any random building, and I was going to find some women there. I was going to ask them what was going on, and they were going to tell me. They were my friends. I tried looking in the forest, but I couldn't find the trail. I was lost. I tried looking in the mountain stream and in the deepened channel that divides the two cities. I was trying to find the one and not the other. The water was dark and the wind howled. We were in a cave. The light was off in the distance. We were alone. The voice was deep and deep. It came from the cave. It was Lana, the voice of the cave. It was Lana, the voice of all the caves. The water was dark and the wind was howling, but we dared not look because we were afraid of what we were about to see. We stood up and stretched out our hands. The water rushed back into the cistern, but we couldn't stop it because we were afraid of what we were about to see. I used the texts that I found online to find the location of the corresponding article in the Journal of Religion. I typed in the address, and the resulting page loaded with a list of all the articles on that topic. I then started with the articles that were most relevant to the topic at hand, choosing articles that discussed the use of ritual in the history of ideas. Found objects, and the horizon of the self. The self is a zero-dimensional non-object, a non-self, a non-self. Found objects. And the horizon of the self. The self is a zero-dimensional non-object, a non-self, a non-self. The self is the place where the object and the self mingle, where they develop, where they mingle.
Talk about an art piece that gets you thinking, that invokes a lot of feelings, and that challenges you. All right, I had a good lunch break. So, we just begin the next chapter of our conference, themed Inspired by Nature. We have the privilege to have the creator of this art piece with us today. I would like to invite Albena Boeva to the stage. Baeva, it's written Boeva, sorry. Albena Baeva, Albena Baeva, Albena Baeva, Albena Baeva. Please, welcome. Sorry about that. How are you?
Thank you.
So, a few words about Albena. She works at the intersection of art, technology, and social science. In her interactive installations for urban spaces and galleries, she uses machine learning and artificial intelligence, physical computing, creative coding, and DIY practices. Albena has two majors in restoration and digital arts. She received an Everything is Just Fine commission from the Bulgarian Fund for Women in 2019 and won the International ESSL Art Award for Contemporary Art in 2011, as well as the VIG Special Invitation again in 2011. Albena is a co-founder of Runabout Project, a platform for new performance instruments, the studio for interactive design Reactive, and Gallery. Her work was shown in many museums for contemporary art, galleries, and festivals for video and performances throughout the world. So please, everybody, Albena.
Thank you. I hope now the sound is good. I'll try not to shout. Okay. An artificial intelligence sent to humans an artifact consisting of 12 objects. I spent months in search for that object, and I finally found it in Lake Pančerevo near Sofia. Then I built a digital portal of a sort, so everybody could have access and explore this important artifact. Now, today, you can touch into this. You can try and scan the QR code in the hole. It is a small flashing video object. Sometimes the QR code appears. You need to be patient in order to get into the mystery and maybe figure it out. The AI Commandments is a trilogy, a speculative art installation that comments on the contemporary governmental approaches to regulating the artificial intelligence, the technology, the political and social implications that we suffer from the use of AI, and the deceiving way the media displays the topic. The Quest is a video work that tells the story about the process of searching for the mysterious object of the AI commandments. The Quest is inspired by a new form of need, the need to reconsider the development and the direction of our technological world. This video uses AI for the generation of the whole text, the sound, and part of the images. It speaks with a machine voice that tells us the story about the contradictions we live in. From one side, we want to thrive and rule, to find new cures, to travel the universe. But on the other hand, the technology we develop is entirely dependent on the resources hidden deep in Earth. The petrol, the gas, the lithium. We now have both powers in our hands, to destroy everything or to create. And what will be? Will we manage to restore the balance? Thank you.
Next up, we have our next panel, Sustainability in the Arts and the Creative Industries. Let's welcome to the stage Ralica Gerasimova. Also, Claudia Jeriko, who is ICO of the newly designated EIT Culture and Creativity. Margarita Dorovska, Director at Humorhouse Gabrovo. And Anton Aladzhov, Chief Creative Officer at Evedo.com.
Thank you.
So, I'll just tell you a bit more about Ralica. Ralica Gerasimova is a social anthropologist, curator, and cultural manager. Her present work is focused on the development of the contemporary art scene in Varna, beautiful city, where she is also the director of the biggest venue for contemporary art and culture, Ribonkers. Ralica is an advocate for the development of the artistic industry in Bulgaria, and as such, she is invested in the professional development of artists and artistic collectives, the export of Bulgarian art abroad, and the building of international exchange practices. Her research interests are related to the globalization and human professional flows, a topic she has studied for more than 12 years. Since her return to Bulgaria in 2016, she also has become invested in the study of socialism and the social culture. So a lot of interesting stuff. Ralica, take it away.
Thank you. Good day, everyone.
Thank you very much for the organizers for making this beautiful event. It's a great pleasure to share stage with these amazing people. Thank you very much personally to Sasha Bezukhanova and MovBG for the invitation. There's a lot to say about art, and we're usually kind of long speakers, but today we're going to try to wrap it up. I have a lot of wonderful things to say about all the participants, but I'll invite them to introduce themselves, maybe starting from Claudia.
Yeah, I can start. So first of all, thrilled to be here amongst such great female, and I spotted also some male leaders. Yeah, I'm the interim Chief Operations Officer of the EIT Culture and Creativity. We'll dive in later what that is. Maybe a little bit about my past and how I got there. I'm a business economist with a very strong connection to the arts. And already in the 90s, when I was studying, I was making music and I was organizing interdisciplinary events, exhibitions, and inventing all kinds of formats that were completely new at that time, always bringing together diverse target groups, ideas, topics. And it was always my mission and my passion to bring together and to connect arts, culture, and economy, and promote further the connection, because I think it's much more to this connection than art just being some kind of a nice decoration in the background. Yeah, and in this mission, I didn't only meet my, I would say, companion in creative crime, Bernd Fesel, who is now the CEO, interim CEO of the EIT Culture and Creativity, but I also co-founded and led many of these exchange platforms where it was exactly my task to create formats for exchange, for moderation, for translation, for matchmaking, for enabling, for funding, be it mainly conferences, festivals, the first creative business festival 15 years ago in Germany, or also the first web and startup conference in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, so always reaching out also to the digital realm very early, or the first innovation lab, arts into business. Yeah, and my motivation is really to create structures. I love to create structures and deriving simplicity and making sense of complexity and unveiling possibilities, showing them, visualizing them, and integrating people, yeah, creating kind of frameworks where everyone can flourish and unleash their full potential. And more and more I realize these frameworks are set on a political level. And this is where really the power lies and where you can create the impact. So in the last 7 years, I have been leading the Cluster Institution for Culture and Creative Industries in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. This is the biggest state in Germany with almost 500,000 creative and cultural actors, 40 billion turnover, so quite big. And there it was also my task to create the support architectures like a hinge between the market and politics. Yeah, and now we are up to scaling this on a European level, creating a pan-European organization, and we will talk about this in a minute, I guess.
Amazing. Anton, would you follow the...
Maybe ladies first.
All right, ladies first. Very polite of you. Margarita.
Thanks, Anton. I'm curator of contemporary art by vocation, and since 2016, I've been in the role of director of the Museum of Humor and Satire in Gabrovo, an amazing place dedicated to art, contemporary art, and to cartoons, and running the oldest and most established biennial for art in Bulgaria. This is the Gabrovo Biennial of Humor and Satire. Through the biennial, we every time try to tackle an important, currently important topic. The previous biennial was dedicated to publicness and the idea of publicness. So what is that thing that belongs to all of us and that we are all responsible together about, and how to maintain the public domain. And this year's 25th edition of the biennial was dedicated to the theme economy of means. behind which stands the topic of the climate crisis, but seen from a broader perspective, seen through an economic scope, social scope, cultural, and with a clear understanding that on a planet with limited resources, we have to put the rein on our ambition and expectation for things to be growing. We should develop rather a culture of care and maintenance. And we definitely need to change the existing models, social, political, economic models in place if you want to be able to do something about the climate crisis. And culture is obviously at the heart of this agenda. And alongside my work with the Museum of Humor and our great dedication to environmental questions, we at the museum have a hobby, and it's kind of an institutional hobby, and it has to do with the name of Christo and Jean-Claude. Christo was born in Gabrovo in 1935. He lived there for 15 years. Probably not many people would know, very much his artwork was influenced by his early childhood and the materials that he was surrounded in his childhood. These are textiles and these are barrels, the old barrels in which, in the case of Gabrovo, were stored the chemicals used for the textile industry. Alongside the work for the museum, we've been focusing on developing a center for contemporary art under the name of Christo and Jean-Claude in a former textile school. But more on that later.
We'll hear more about that later, yes. And now, Anton, finally.
That was great. How can I top that? Yeah, let me preface this with the fact that there's a lot of serious and important people here, and I'm probably here to offset all of that. I'm the Chief Creative Officer at Evedo, in a nutshell. I do product design. I do have a fine arts degree, but I don't really use it that much these days. And our company is doing a lot of different products that I would like to believe are inspiring and facilitating some kind of creative endeavor. If you have bought a ticket and you're not here illegally, then you probably passed one of our platforms, which is Plantix. And I'm here to talk a little bit more about NFTs and our other platform, Fragment.
Amazing. Now, because we heard so many different terms, culture, creativity, various aspects to which you speak about the industry, so maybe we should start with having some common grounds of what is a creative industry. It's a very long topic, but let's have a working category that we can use in the discussion, at least for today. Claudia, would you try?
Yeah. I mean, there's no such unified definition of culture and creative industries all over Europe. There are various definitions related to the nations. For example, in Germany, we have 11 sectors encompassing or included in the culture and creative sectors. And no matter how they are clustered and aggregated, they encompass the cultural field, which is like the higher arts, intrinsically motivated visual, performing arts, music, also including theaters, museums, GLAMs, which they are called, but also the applied sciences like design, software, advertising. So they're two sides of the coin, which is also represented in the cultural declaration of, or the UNESCO declaration of cultural diversity, which says culture always has this cultural but also an economic side. And this is really important, and the economic side is more and more acknowledged also on a European level because they really contribute massively to the value and validation of European economy. They account for like 9, sometimes 12 million people working in this field, depending a little bit on how you look at it and what is integrated, but it's the third biggest employer. It employs more people than the automotive industry. And for example, on a global level, it accounts for, or it's projected to account for 10% of the global validation in 2030, and it's expected to have 990 billion contributing to the GDPR in 2023. So it's really a massive force also in economic terms, and this is more and more recognized. So that's why it's ingrained more and more in the political programs. We will talk about this also in a minute, because it's understood that we don't need only technical innovation, but we also need these kind of non-technological innovations, which is called, meaning also technology, but looking also at the intangible sides. You know, the big business models, I mean, we're probably preaching to the converted here, but the big business models, you know, for streaming and so on, they're driven by the urge to have access to cultural goods and content and so on. So that's how these big digital business models evolve and develop. So it's known that it's needed, the cultural contributions are needed also for participation, for cohesion, for identity, and this is what the European Union now, Commission now said. We acknowledge this with the EIT Culture and Creativity, what we are building up. So we are looking for, really contributing to European identities and all these purpose-driven economies, experience economies that are also integrated in the cultural and creative economies.
So to sum up, basically the importance of understanding the concept of creative industries, combining the business aspects together with the creative and the...
Exactly.
So you already started about the newly established EIT Culture and Creativity KIC. Please tell us about this really exciting new chapter of the European Innovation Institute.
Yeah. So as I said, it's supposed to have a really important contribution to driving innovation and change in Europe. So the EIT is part of the Horizon Europe program. It's one of the strands integrated in Innovative Europe, and EIT stands for European Institute for Innovation and Technology, and it's founding and supporting innovation communities. And it started 12 years ago and found an innovation community around climate. This is the EIT Climate KIC, which integrates the so-called knowledge triangle. It brings together organizations from research, from education, and from business, systematically bringing them together for innovation on climate. We have now 8 innovation communities on food and on urban mobility, on health, and we are the 9th innovation community to drive the change and innovation by creative industries. So we're bringing together different organizations. We have applied in the call that was just we just won with 50 partners ranging from Fraunhofer to the biggest university alliance to big corporates like Philips and Ogilvy, but also Creative Hubs Network, Global Impact Hub Network, to come together and really build a European organization, pan-European organization with subsidiaries all over Europe, and build new structures to synergize European funding to bring it back to the market and the field, also including civil society, public authorities, and stimulate innovation to drive we call it triple transition, the transition in green, of course, which is most importantly, but also digital and social, because all the transitions are mainly driven by people, and that's what is hoped to be achieved by culture and creativity, really addressing the people.
You mentioned there's the 9th section of the institute, and why it came now? Is there some specific reason why the gender now culture comes ahead in this innovation European strategy?
Yeah, it's I mean, there are 2 strands. There's this strand of the development of culture and acknowledgement of culture and creativity in the European realm, started in 2007 formally with a report on the culture or on the culture of economy. by Barroso, which was kind of the cradle for the Creative Europe program, which might be known, and having another kind of milestones when there was a coherent strategy for culture and creative industries in 2016. And then 2021, it was the first time that in this big Horizon Europe program, culture and creative industries were really systematically incorporated with an own cluster. I think I almost lost. Now I'm back again. So 4 billion euros now for the creative industries in the Horizon Europe program, and at the same time, the European agenda in the green and digital transformation, also the social transformation, which is displayed in the Green Deal, the Paris Agreement. So it sort of came together. Was just timely to now set up the cultural and creativity innovation community to bring really together these trends and to put European creative industries on a new systematically entangled level.
So from the large institutional framework, we're going to get down to a more local context with the next question. Being situated right now in the amazing space of Topol Central, it's my first time, it's just amazing. We now are at the moment where Bulgaria sees the opening of new and fascinating, impressive cultural centers all over the country. And we have Margarita here who already spilled the beans about the Christo and Jean-Claude center that is upcoming in Gabrovo. Please tell us more about that. And is there a sustainability aspect of it?
It was probably my first week in Gabrovo as a director when the owner of the local newspaper came to meet me and said, well, we are happy to have you here and we expect a lot to be happening with the museum. But I'm personally involved with one really important cause, and this is establishing a center for contemporary art under the name of Christo and Jean-Claude. And I know you are into contemporary art. Let's see how you can help us. And that's the moment where really the entire museum got involved with this initiative, which started completely grassroots 30 years ago. It was an article in the local newspaper in the 90 or 91 that promoted the idea of opening a permanent exhibition of Christo and Jean-Claude's work in Gabrovo. And since then, it's been a very consistent effort involving local people from the media, intellectuals, artists, curators, educators, and growing and growing and growing, and with the consistent support of the municipality and the municipal council. So one thing that you realize is absolutely amazing about this effort, about the center, is when you go to a meeting of the municipal council and listen how they are quarreling and struggling over different questions, and then you have to explain a new phase of the project for the center, and then you see everyone who is voting and supporting this, and this is really one cause that brings everyone locally in Gabrovo together. But it goes far beyond Gabrovo, of course. If we have a contemporary artist, Bulgarian contemporary artist, who has really made a great name in the world, definitely our most recognized artist, that would be Christo. And I think after 30 years with very little done for contemporary art in Bulgaria, and having this amazing example of Topol Centrala, which is, however, dedicated mostly to performance and performing arts, it is really important to have the next spot, and it's really important to have it outside of Sofia. So our approach to developing the center is really following the spirit and the approach of Christo and Jean-Claude. And for those who know their projects, they're extremely complex. There is a lot of architecture and urbanism in all these projects because they take place in public space. they always involve very, very complex engineering constructions. And very often engineering innovation. And that is also part of the spirit of Gabrovo. And they always have very exhaustive environmental impact reports. And also, there is a quite amazing entrepreneurial model standing behind each project. You know, their projects are public, open, and free for everyone. And at the same time, they are very heavy on cash burn in terms of production. So they have the unique model of financing their projects. So there's also the business and the finance side. So our aim is to develop the art center exactly following this model and turning it into a production space where different backgrounds and different disciplines meet and work together.
I have a little sub-question. The Christo Ivashev's art label is Christo Jean-Claude internationally, but in Bulgaria, perhaps because Christo is Bulgarian and Jean-Claude is not, more commonly it appears just as the name Christo. How you as a woman in the industry will make sure to add the Jean-Claude in the whole picture? Sorry for the little sub-question.
Yeah, it's they have a very, very inspiring history together. They are probably one of the most interesting art couples. And at some point, retroactively, when they decided to label their projects as Christo and Jean-Claude, they retroactively added Jean-Claude's name to all their works as well, which is quite unusual in contemporary art. And when you understand exactly the role of Jean-Claude, there was this question about the vision, the plan, and the result. I would say she was the plan and the result, very much. And exactly for this, we make sure every time to correct anyone who omits her name.
Amazing stuff happening in Gabrovo. So here we have in the panel is something like a topography of the art sector. We have big organizational bodies, then we have actual physical museums and cultural venues, and then what stays in between is the virtual aspect of art. We started the panel with this beautiful video from Albania. But Anton, please tell us a little bit about the role of NFT and blockchain, and in general the virtual space as a platform of art. And please don't forget to mention how this relates to the green agenda, because there's a big discussion right now whether this is ecological or not. So please give us your...
Yeah, I like how you said that it's a platform for the arts, right? Like it's not here to replace the traditional way people do art. It's just something to add on and help other people jump in on the arts wagon, essentially, because we all know that traditional art is kind of a gated scene and it's very hard to enter. About NFTs, how many of you actually have heard about NFTs? How many of you know what it is? Okay, so a lot of people have heard, almost half of those actually know. It's so without getting into like the details and being too technical, it's a digital certificate of authenticity of whatever. In this case, art, could be music, could be any kind of digital file essentially. And it gave a lot of volume to some artists that wouldn't have this opportunity otherwise. So it kind of democratizes art in one way. It's a good addition to the art scene because, I mean, people from all over the world can participate, so it's very inclusive. I mean, it does have its like downsides as well, but it's usually very inclusive, and a lot of people can make a living from it. A lot of charities can make their funding through it. A lot of different projects actually do. And it's a great way to build communities as well. About the green aspect, yeah, you mentioned that there's a discussion and there's a lot of things said and written down about cryptocurrency in general, blockchain in general, because NFTs are piggybacking on a technology that's called blockchain. The same technology that is used by Bitcoin, maybe some of you have heard of it. And the bad rap about cryptocurrency and the very unfriendly to the environment part is due to the granddaddy of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin mostly, because Ethereum actually switched its algorithm a few weeks back, and doing so, it reduced 99% of its carbon emissions electricity usage. Wow. There's nothing else in the world that can actually do that in just a split second. They've been planning for it for 2-3 years, but still this is very fast. And because Ethereum was actually 0.2% of the electrical consumptions of the world, these 0.2% are now gone just with a commit of 100+ developers.
Wow, impressive numbers.
I'm not part of those developers. Those claps are to them.
By proxy. So you're wearing a T-shirt of
Yes.
your platform Fragment,
yeah.
And because you mentioned the word community a moment ago, do tell us about this community-based NFT initiative.
Okay, yeah, I feel like a douche actually. I'm the only one branded here. So we do an NFT platform, which there are a lot of those out there. We're trying to do a little bit different spin, especially for building communities, because I do believe that the next decade the world would be community in any part of, in any scene and sphere. So what NFTs actually are intending to do is bring people together under one cause or being part of a club. There are a bunch of projects that have like exclusive clubs, so that's for bragging rights and for people to be part of some exclusivity. But there are some that actually do great work, and it just says that technology can be used for anything. It should be used for good, not for evil. And this one actually provides the structure to do that. Like WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation, actually had an NFT drop that that aimed to save a lot of endangered species. They had some great results. They also have a very huge backlash from the community because it was still on the old Ethereum, so it was not so green, which I'm not sure if that's too much relevant in this project, but you can see how people can fund different initiatives doing that. All the people in the world, they don't need a bank account, and they don't need all of these things that 2+ billion people in the world don't really have.
Amazing. So it's been proven we have a very diverse set of specialists here in the sector from very different perspectives, and that is why I'm going to use the next question to address each of you. In your opinion, in your experience, what is one example of an obstacle for the sustainability in the creative industry, and what is one example of solutions? Margarita?
One example of an obstacle is probably being overambitious. As the link between art and ecology and the green agenda has been running for a very long time. It was abandoned for a while, but if we look at who were the first whistleblowers in the 70s, those were contemporary artists. At least in my experience, being over-ambitious in this agenda has been the stroke that was almost to break the camel's back. Now we as a museum are developing a green policy, and we put very special effort to be extremely realistic in what we can do and to plan very carefully and not to make this effort overburdening, but to have the feeling that over time we are achieving with small steps important cornerstones.
I'll take a note of that comment. Thank you so much. Anton, your answer to that question?
An obstacle would be people. That's normal, and since it's not very human to reduce people unless you're in a Marvel movie, we need more of this. Like, this is a good example. People gathering, talking about these things, people presenting different solutions that they come up with, because you don't know like what kind of a idea would spark this in somebody sitting in the audience or somebody watching online. So this is a great example of how to move the needle.
Claudia, what do you think about obstacles in
Yeah, I mean,
sustainability?
it wasn't a question I was prepared for, but I see a lot of obstacles, of course. And one, I mean, you mentioned some with ambitions, and this has to do with acknowledgement of what culture and creative industries can really provide. And the question of scalability, because you have great initiatives on a local level, but you can't really create outreach and impact. And this is both what we're addressing in our program. So I would like to make it just a little bit more tangible in what we're doing. So as I said, we're bringing together this knowledge triangle with education, research and business, also reaching out to public authorities and the wider society, means these are our strands of action. And in education, for example, we plan by 2030 to have, for example, 1,500 students trained with our programs, which should break boundaries and cross-disciplinary education, bringing in technological but also creative disciplines, seeing it on a holistic level. Then in innovation, we want to create new labs and breakthrough ideas, mission-driven innovations. So we aim for like 400, that's our KPI, 400 innovations by 2030. We also addressing the private sector, because investment in creative industries is just as important as tapping into the public funding. So we want to create an investment club, for example. We have already started with that, planning for 80 million invested in culture and creative industries by 2030, and also reaching out to public authorities on a municipal level. It's like about having around 2,000 municipalities getting involved in culture and creative activities that are addressing like the urban regeneration and urban transformation by creative industries. So, and also aiming for system change, also changing regulations, because I said at the beginning it's about frameworks, and these frameworks make it possible to really scale it and to foster via law, via legislation. And this is maybe the ultimate goal, I would say, really drive the system change, really having creative industries at the heart and at the forefront.
I will get to you with a follow-up on this, on what you just said, but can you tell us a little bit more about the sustainability aspects and diversity aspects in the EIT culture and creativity? Because you described a lot about how this whole thing functions, but what are the key aspects that make it sustainable and that make it diverse?
I mean, we have literally just started. We're not even in kindergarten, I would say. But of course, like as we are building the structures now, we can really encompass the sustainability inclusion aspect in everything we do. And this is, of course, what we intend, like having criteria for gender or all 7 aspects of diversity really ingrained in the structures, in the quotas, if you want, like really looking at this diversity that is already in the culture and creative industries, but that is needed for, innovation happens when diverse perspectives meet. And this is what you can now implement in setting up all this. Yeah? And also we look, of course, at the geographical diversity and balance. For example, we need to have 15% spent, I would say, at the borders of Europe, where maybe they don't score as high on the innovation board, or innovation scoreboard. This is called a regional innovation scheme, and we have to invest also there. So it has this diversity aspect, and also in terms of course, a sectorial perspective, like bringing all the different creative industries together, but also looking beyond, like to cross innovation, as I mentioned before, also social innovation, bringing all these different sectors together by the right exchange and collaboration formats. So this is our take on diversity, I would say.
So starting with sustainability in mind ahead. Anton, in terms of the diversity, I cannot skip asking you, there's a lot being said about the gender gaps in the digital sector, but when we talk about the creative digital sector, or let's say the NFT field, what are the observations there? You seem to work very well with numbers, so do you have some data about that as well?
Yeah, I do. I mean, the observation from my own perspective is actually things are kind of maybe equal, because I have some people in my close circle that are both genders, both are into NFT. So for me, that's my experience. But there are some research that says 16% of the total NFT market in the world is actually comprised of women, and only 5% of the sales are from women artists. So there's a big difference there. I mean, that's kind of mimicking the traditional art, because there I think it's like 2 or 3% of all the pieces that are auctioned.
And in your particular practice and platform, how do you address this gap? Do you do something in order to change that?
I mean, I think that would change eventually anyway, because as I said, the barrier to entry into NFTs as an artist is a lot smaller and a lot easier to jump over if we compare it to the traditional arts scene. So I think that maybe for some reason female artists are not so keen on using new technology. Maybe actually they're the smart ones, that they're waiting to see what happens, and then they jump in, and that's might be a better solution. But yeah, I feel like I think Albena had an NFT. I don't know how it did. I have a colleague, Helena Dimova. If you guys see your bags, there is a Bulka image that's made from her. So I don't know. I think I'm being positive about it.
Positive about it. Let's be positive about it indeed. So basically, we can see in this brief presentation of our panelists that we have culture as a mean of innovation, culture as a mean of building new audiences and new institutions, and culture as a mean of technological innovation and transformation. But in all its forms and shapes, how does art and the culture and the creative industry relate to the topic of sustainability, and how they, Margarita mentioned here, how the first whistleblowers about climate change have been artists. So let's maybe finish this nice discussion with commenting on how culture is a mean of fighting for sustainability and improving.
I would say the biggest challenge we have today as a society is learning again to speak to each other. We've been lately so enclosed in our bubbles and slowly have become sort of fundamentalists, each in their own belief. And these problems are not going to get solved by themselves if we behave as if we are all an island for ourselves. So my feeling is that art, as a field that has always been starting a conversation starter, a platform for debate, for discussion, for meeting different points of view, has a very, very important role. The big challenge in terms of sustainability and is to, you mentioned scalability, but that is to enlarge the circle very steadily, very smartly, and with in-depth engagement. And that's where I see art really working.
Anton?
So the question was the role of arts in sustainability?
In reaching sustainability and fighting for sustainability and for the green cause.
Yeah. I mean, artists are creative people, right? And I don't think that there's a solution that can be made without creativity to tackle this problem. Like, it's a very big problem. It's, I think, what was it? By 2015, we need to be carbon zero to sustain that life. It's a very huge problem. And I don't think that art, NFTs, or any of these on their own is the only solution or the only answer, but they are definitely an answer, and they need to be a part of the conversation to bring those creative solutions to the surface, so they can be used by communities and people. And as I said, like, I think the word of the decade would be communities and those gathered around a shared value system. That value system, if it's instilled correctly and if it's the right value system, then that I think can succeed.
Claudia, maybe you have
it's kind of
the
wrapping
last
up
word.
what we all said. And it's not only the arts, it's the terms, it's art, culture, and creative industries that really have to work together, share the knowledge, and come together, educate, break boundaries and silos in which we're in, create synergies, and tell the change, drive the change, create the change, and reach people's hearts and minds, that we all come together for the common purpose, and have creative industries and arts at the heart of being the game changer, I would say, something like this.
We like that.
True story.
Well, thank you very much to the panelists, and I'll just like to sum up their most important contribution, which is, don't forget the green agenda of your art space. The digital art sector is positive about positive change, which is the good news, and apparently there's a big green news in the sector. And finally, it seems that the EIT is engaging culture as yet another strain of the synergetic fight for better solutions for our world. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and thank you for the panelists.
Thank you.
For your wonderful input. Okay, shall we go?
We actually have some time for questions from the audience, and
sorry.
we actually have a volunteer
Yeah.
on the chair.
Oh, it's amazing.
So
I'm
a round
sorry.
of applause for Elena.
Oops.
There you go.
Finally, someone
Is
in
that the
chair.
first time that chair is being used?
I already
Today?
used it like 5 times.
I mean from guests.
Yeah. Zelenia.
No, not yet.
No.
Technical support. Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I just always wanted to sit on this chair. I think it looks cool.
It really matches your dress. It's amazing.
But you guys did a wonderful panel, and I like that you tackled the two faces of arts in relation to sustainability, to raise awareness about sustainability, but also to be in itself sustainable. So my question for you is, what are the best examples, the role models, the most sustainable forms of arts or creative industries? I know Christo and Jean-Claude are definitely one example. All their projects are fully recycled afterwards. I mean, there are many other aspects to it, but that's the obvious one. What are the other role models we should all be looking at?
Volunteers.
I think there are many role models all over Europe already, but I'd like to mention, for example, a very great initiative in UK, which is called Julie's Bicycle. I don't know if you have heard of this. You should definitely have a look. They really drive change within the creative industries, looking for carbon neutral festivals, for example. How can the creative industries become carbon neutral by themselves? Or, for example, we partner with a really interesting initiative which is called the Games Forest Club, addressing the gamers outside to help reforestation or protecting forests by gamify the purpose, so to say, make it more attractive. Yeah? Play to save the planet. You know, these are the kind of narrations you need, make it attractive, not coming with, oh, we have got problems. I mean, we have got wicked problems, but also showing a way out by the means of creative industries, telling, showing, playing with it. So these were 2 examples maybe, but there are a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have an answer for the contemporary art scene, but in the blockchain sphere, there are some projects that are pretty interesting and trying to do stuff. One is for the Amazonian rainforest as well, where you can contribute to actually purchase a part of it so you can actually save it. That's an interesting project. There are others that you can, if you're a company and you're trying to go greener, you can support a lot of different charities and initiatives by purchasing digital tokens and things like that on the blockchain to actually help that. So that kind of feels like if you're being evil, you can offset that evil thing with a little bit of money, but it's still something, and people are moving into that direction.
Now that this anthropologist in me cannot refrain, because after all, art is the universal cultural language of communication that encompasses and bridges specific local cultural groups. So perhaps some very important thing is the ability of art to speak and to convey messages, and to, Margarita mentioned the trend of radicalization of opinions regarding important topics. And art is a way to kind of guide the public opinion in the right way because it speaks in its own language. Are you searching for something to quote?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm searching for a year. I'll give one example from long ago, and that will be the project of Agnes Denes, a Hungarian-born American artist, who in 1982 planted a wet field on one of the most expensive spots in the world, right next to the World Trade Center. So she emptied a landfill and planted wet, and that is probably the most expensive wet ever grown. But it really gives you a sense of what's basic and what's important. And then I'll give you a very contemporary example. This is the art collective Cooking Sections, who have really been practicing this culture of dialogue and discussion. And one of their most interesting projects lately has been on an island in the UK, where they've used the shoreline, where you have seashells growing, and when the water is removed, they've built a structure where they have the local community meeting and talking and sharing food, and then the water comes and this space is used by the sea culture, and as a result from this really community effort, what I managed to achieve was to remove salmon from the menu of all restaurants on this small island. So,
Nice. Are there any other brave souls to sit in the roast chair?
As you can see, we're not roasting anybody, so.
Yet. No? Well, once again, let me try to say thank you to the panelists for their wonderful input, and to the audience for their attention. And looking forward to continue these discussions informally later. Thank you, everyone, again, for our participants.
Thank you.